What we can do, starting out here, to have a little more of a sophisticated conversation with our horse, we want to start helping them to understand the bridle in that way. So we educate them about the bit. It's not just about slapping the bit in their mouth and going for a ride. Okay? One of the things that we want to first be able to do is induce that mobilization of the tongue. Okay? The way that we're going to do this, we're going to start out just with a little hold on I hold directly on the ring of the bit, and I'm going to lift a little bit up toward her ear. And you can see that just through what I've been doing with her the last couple days, and she's pretty soft anyway in the mouth, she starts to work the mouth a little bit naturally that way. We're going to just lift up slightly, maybe toward the ear, if you think of it that way. Okay? We don't want to be pulling on the bars of the mouth, because we know what that does to the back end, right? We know that that causes a brace in the hind quarters, and we're not looking for that for sure. So we want to think about lifting upward to help mobilize the jaw. If you lift upward and your horse just kind of leans into it or is inactive in the mouth, they just sit there, they don't do anything, right? You might put a little vibration, okay? Think about your hand maybe shivering in the cold, right? That much of a vibration, that fast twitch of a vibration, is what we're trying to do, is more or less tickle the tongue to cause the activation there. Just stay awake. Now, she's got another step here where she's starting to lean down a little bit. So I'll play with a couple other little things here with her, lifting a little bit. The first thing we want is to get that mobilization of the jaw so that the horse begins to understand when I feel the bit becoming active, I can release and relax my jaw. Those of you with nose bands, you want to be really sure of how they're adjusted in this case. They have to be loose enough that the horse can work the jaw. A lot of unfortunately, the modern fit of our nose bands is too snug. Okay? This is why most of my dressage bridles don't even have nose bands on, because there's really not a purpose for them. If they're adjusted properly, they're just for looks. And they do look nice, granted. But proper adjustment, they need to be really loose. So in order for the horse to work their mouth completely, and in order for the horse to be able to yawn with the nose band on, you want to make sure that you can get a good finger hold underneath that. Okay? You want to think about stacking two fingers on top of each other, and you should have that much room underneath the nose band. It's not a side-by-side idea, it's a two fingers stacked. Okay? That's going to help to make sure that your horse has enough room that they can open the mouth, they can work the jaw completely, they can yawn if they need to release that tension that way. And so to me, if there's a question, we just take it off. You know, it's not a big deal. So we get that little mobilization there of the tongue, of the jaw, through that vibration of the bit. Some horses too, I'll play here, I'll reach in and kind of play with her tongue a little bit if they are pretty braced on that, if you feel like the vibration doesn't seem to help them release. Okay, so we can... No, I'm waiting just for the jaw to become active. After that, a lot of them will drop their head. They'll kind of stretch through their top line after they've done that because of the way the tongue is connected to the top line, connected to the rest of the body. Oftentimes, if we induce the relaxation here, we get relaxation through the rest of it. Okay. So that's why you'll see that as a natural response a lot of the time. They'll start to reach down and stretch into the body once they've unlocked the jaw. Yeah, absolutely. Now, beyond that, we want to take a couple different, or we want to ask or request a couple different releases from our horse. We might ask for what I would call a lateral release. Remember we talked a little bit about this yesterday. Lateral release and lateral flexion are two very different things. The lateral release, I'm going to lift the rein out here to the side. I might be standing kind of at the neck here, and I'm going to wait until the horse acknowledges there. Laterally, giving just slightly into the rein. Not a pull, just a hold and a wait until the jaw begins to kind of tip our way, until the head begins to tip our way a little bit. And again, when you feel that from your horse, once you release, they will commonly reach down and begin to stretch a little bit. Now Bustin right here is kind of just resting and sleeping on this. She's wildly excited this morning. So we see here her body's making a couple little changes. She's adjusting her feet, adjusting her balance a little. I'm just going to wait until she acknowledges my direction with the head. Right here, she's doing a little bit of leaning, so I might put a little bit that vibration on the bit. Might reach in and tickle if that doesn't change things. There. Tiny, tiny little change. What we're trying to do is loosen basically that atlanto-occipital joint, okay? Loosening the base of the neck. When you hear people talk about pole flexion, the pole is just a bump under the foretop. It's a bony protuberance in the skull. There's no flexibility in the bump. It's the joint right there that we want to think about, that atlanto-occipital joint. We want to think, can we help them to keep that head loose? Can we relax that enough that they can release that? That's going to be a big key to keeping the whole top line released. Sometimes you'll see me in the front here. I'm kind of drawing on an outside and helping inward with with an inside. There you go, sweetheart. If your horse holds a lot of tension there, it can be quite a, sorry honey, can be quite a little bit of an effort to help them release that. It's not a hard work thing, you know, because we're not pushing it. We're not making it happen. We're waiting for that release to come through. So it's just like with the other work that we're doing. We're just setting them up to show them the way, and we let them find it. Because you can't force relaxation, right? You can't outmuscle an emotion. There. Girl. And you'll see with her a lot too, right? The way she's doing this, she gives a little, almost exaggerates quite a bit, and then starts working her jaw. She's letting loose of this. If a horse has been pulled on quite a bit in the reins, they learn to brace that, okay? Sometimes it's just who they are as a person, right? Just like us, one person can be a little more naturally tense, another person can be a little more naturally relaxed, so some horses will have a tendency to struggle with this.
What happens if your horse backs up to get away from that?
Okay, and that's a pretty common thing. The question, if you guys didn't hear it, is what happens if the horse backs up when you're doing this. I'm going to try to be really soft and go with them, okay, because I don't want them to misunderstand and think that going backwards was the right answer, right? So if we just abandon what we're doing, they'll be pretty sure that that was the right thing to do. So I'll hang in there with them, but I want to make sure in my movement, there you are, in my movement, in my energy, that I'm not causing them to rush backwards or I'm not adding anything to it. So it's just a little, there, little rolling of the head to see if we can't isolate that joint. Again, there. The flexion, the lateral flexion versus the lateral release. In a lateral flexion, we're bringing basically the whole neck around. Well, your horse can still be very stiff and braced in the AO joint at the base of the head there and bring their neck around. So just because they'll move their whole neck doesn't mean they're supple, right? Doesn't mean they're releasing. But if we start here at the base, if we can get this piece unlocked, almost always, from my experience anyway, almost always, if the base of the head here, if the AO joint unlocks and releases, the rest of the neck follows. Okay, the rest of it will be unlocked. So that's a pretty important piece, I think, to work on, to make sure that that's nice and loose. Yeah, girl. And again, a lot of times, your horse will start then to work the jaw and stretch, and release. It's a good thing. Okay? Again, it's the unlocking of the top line there. Okay? Once we've got that going on, then I'll ask for more of what I would call an elevated release. Okay? We talked yesterday about the base of the neck, the core of the cervical, right? And how that relates to the balance of the horse. Okay? I want to see through the reins if I can help adjust her posture slightly. I'm going to just lift and hold there. And I wait for her to give the response to begin to lift. So it's not a pulling upward, it's a holding. Okay. And we wait.
That's a two-to-one ladder right there. Hold on. Oh, wow.
There.
Wow.
And so we hang in there and wait. And again, what we want to feel is the base of the neck, that C5 in there. We want to feel that start to lift. So we're talking about postural adjustment in there. And it's not a rushing thing. We want to wait for that. The idea is we're educating the horse about this so that when we climb on their back and we lift up on a rein, they soften the neck to the rein. We lift up on two reins, or we take contact with two reins, and they adjust their posture from that. Okay, there we go. Yeah, good. And now with our Frisians, okay, super easy for them to come up there and kind of drop the sternum also. So for the most, there, good. And then I want to go back into extension of the neck with him. Yeah, so then once we've got that lift, we want to come back. I would want to play more with the Frisian types, or the higher-headed types generally. I would want to play with both variations, saying almost like an accordion, right? Bring in, bring out, bring in, bring out. Yeah, I would want to make sure we can lift a little, and then we can lengthen and extend again. Okay, and that's any horse that's high-headed. It's by nature we want to be able to play with that, because something that can happen quite often with them is they'll lift the head, but the sternum drops and then the back drops, right? So we want to be sure, we want to be sure that we can play with both sides of that so that they're still thinking, even when I lift, extend the top line. Okay. So we think about that lateral release, and we think about that elevated release. And again, it's just about waiting for the horse to come through with that. Your horse might end up bearing down on your hand. If they do that, I might go back to vibrating the rein, mobilizing the jaw again, helping that to be loose. There's a little change. And you'll feel the little minuscule changes in your horse's posture. And that's important to think about. Okay? We want to release on that. Eventually they'll be able to carry that with them, all right, as they move. So she's kind of locking up again a little bit in the neck. I work there. Work on releasing that again. So play with that idea. See what we can get with our horses there. See if you can get that jaw to release. So it's the mobilization of the jaw, then it's the lateral releasing of the head and the jaw, and then the elevated release of the neck.
You're not pulling on the rein, right? You're not pulling on the bit right now.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
You're just using your hands?
Yep, we can use our hands to get this because she's locked up pretty well here at the...
And you want her to lift?
I'd like that. Yep, I'd like to see that. And so there's times here too where I'm doing this, I can even sneak my fingers in her mouth, right?
She's figured out that if she likes to, I'll stop.
Ah, well, there you go. Yeah, I find that's pretty common, that one side has learned to brace, right, a little more. And that's, I think of that a lot as just a self-preservation thing, right? The horses can become accustomed to being pulled on more on one side than another, and so they just learn to kind of tolerate that. And so we're helping to break down those tolerances, right? We're saying, hey, can you release yourself to me? Can you let go of those spots of tension?
So why does everybody crank this down and then also look at the flash that people use?
Oh boy, you want to know the unpopular truth?
Yeah.
To hide the fact that they can't ride and they've got hands that are just uneducated.
Because everybody, they just crank the shit out. And then
Yeah.
So they can't open their mouth.
So they can't open their mouth, basically.
And
Yeah.
walk around the
The-
arena
when
and
you
see 'em
when you've
kicking.
got really bad hands or a horse that's uneducated to the bridle, because it's not always just a bad hand thing. Sometimes the horse doesn't understand. Well, when you've got them expressing by gaping their mouth, easier than teaching a person how to ride. It's easy to just hide the fact that their hands are rough, you know, by strapping the jaw shut, right? But what we know is that by strapping that jaw shut, we're causing extra tension, right? And we said the two main places a horse will hold tension is the jaw and the lower back. So when we strap it shut, we're not doing anything to help the horse. We're just masking and amplifying the problem, really. So, but it is, yeah, it's super common. You know, to the point where you almost can't find a noseband that without the flash attachment now.
I know.
You know, because it's so common.
I have used it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I don't think it was right to tighten his mouth, but I didn't realize that this even looser would be good. It allows them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've got to be able to have that full mobilization of the jaw in order to have the body completely relaxed.
Right.
Yeah.
My nose has elastic here, which is really nice because
Oh yeah, so it's got to give that.
yeah, so it looks like it's a little bit tighter, but you can see.
It's got to give him the elastic.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's very cool. Yeah. And there are some horses too that are so sensitive that even the elastic would feel too restricted. You know. So we have to adjust for each horse that way.
I don't want to overflex. So what's a good rule of thumb for? So I'm so used to like over.
The big bend lateral flexion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what would be your rule of thumb for how far I should flex it?
Smaller.
Smaller. So like,
There you go.
so just
That's why they pay you the big
almost
bucks.
like a little tiny.
If the eye looks my direction, I count that.
Okay, gotcha.
Right?
Okay, just
I want
like
it that subtle. If the eye looks my direction, I count that. What we're really looking to have happen, oh boy, oh, big stretches.
wow.
Man, I'm good. Do you see that flexion I got from here? Man, look at that. Man, oh man, I'm good. Now, what we're really wanting to think about, oh goodness, and I can bring in, I've got the skull and the neck in the car that I can bring in for you to see, but we're really looking at just tiniest adjustment our way.
Okay.
If the whole head, this is too much.
Okay.
Okay, to give you an idea, because the flexibility that they actually have in the pole, it's a good question, I'm really glad you asked this. The flexibility that they have in the pole, or the atlanto-occipital joint, it's about maximum an inch of rotation in either direction. Okay, so hold your finger in front of your nose. Now move your nose to the outside of your finger. You see how little that is?
Yeah.
That's enough,
Gotcha.
right? So it's just that much in the head to give you an idea of how little that really is, right? And so in their head, that's what we're looking at. It's just there. It's just the tiniest amount. But what we want to feel for is that is loose when we go there. We want to feel that they can acknowledge. She's carrying a lot of tension in there. So we want to really think, how loose can we get that? How soft can we get that? But how little can we do to do it? Okay? Because it's about teaching the relaxation, right? and the release of that. And we can't force it to happen. So, you can't, I'm talking to a red-headed mare. You can't tell her, relax, right? We know that doesn't work. But we can help her to find the relaxation. And so there's times you can do this in a halter. You don't necessarily have to do it in the bridle. You can do it in the halter where you just kind of, there, just kind of working the head a little bit, asking for that neck to release a little bit so that the head can come your way. And again, we want to do this on both sides. And it's pretty common that you'll find one side a little stiffer, a little harder to work than the other. Most of our horses, the way that we work with them, we do so much on the left, right? So if the horse, say we're leading and the horse spooks, they end up with extra left bend, right? Because they're moving away from us. So what happens, the extra left bend, they're compressing the left side, okay? Most of our horses end up with left side bodies compressed. So when we go to the right side and we try asking them to do these things over here, when I bend to the right, what does the left side body have to do? It has to stretch. So people will say, oh, my horse is so much stiffer on the right. Actually, he's stiffer on the left, and that's why he has problems reaching to the right, because the left side compression. Okay. All right. Yeah, so that was even borderline too much.
Yeah,
Right? Super tiny.
My little unicorn was too much, and that's why I figured I'd ask. I said,
Yep.
I think this is even too much.
Yep, absolutely. No, I'm so glad you asked. So glad you asked. Because we tend to think that we want these big changes, right? Because we see these big flexions happening. We see all this stuff. It's the little movements that mean the most. You know, if the little movement is hard, if it's stuck, the big movement isn't better. Big movement masks the fact that the little movement isn't there. Because, like we said, they can block that and move the rest of the neck, right? But if they're not released here, they're not released here. Okay? And you can kind of think of them as a mirror, right? From the withers forward and backward. If we've got a lot of tension right here, we're probably going to have a lot of tension right here. If we've got a lot of tension right here, we're probably going to have a lot of tension right here. Okay? So we want to really think about that. Okay?
See, we can see the big bend though, that's why. In our
Bingo.
mind, it looks like it's.
Yeah, right,
We
exactly.
can't see the little one, or we're not educated enough to actually pick up the little one.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of it is a feel. You know, when you pick up on the rein, you'll feel if your horse is soft through the neck. And so when they're bending, you'll feel a difference in the quality of that bend versus one that just puts himself over there, or one that we can put over there, yet they don't actually release into it.
But I think the problem is the instructors either don't know or don't teach you those little, and so they leave you to your own devices. And you go, oh, well, if I can bend him all the way, it's got to be better than bending him that 1 inch correctly. But we don't know about the 1 inch. This is the first time, I'm 60, this is the first time I heard about
There you go.
that 1 inch,
The 1 inch.
movement in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are really, in the grand scheme of it, that's the most important part. That little 1 inch.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
that's the most important part. But
Especially on rubber neck. Freeze.
yeah, right, exactly. And so you're going to find that the whole rubberneck Frisian, right? You'll find the rest of the neck's going to get involved to hide the fact that the base isn't released. Yeah. Cool. So that adds a whole new layer to these things. Good. Yeah. Right. So we play with that a little bit, and sometimes when we're doing this with our horse, they can get to being a little stuck, and it's a good idea to hit the reset button and say, okay, you know what, that was nice. We got 2 or 3 good tries. Let's go for a walk. Let's go change the subject a little bit, and that'll give you a chance to practice your other positions that we were working in. And then we work through the bridle on these positions to see if when we pick up on that rein, can we have that softness through the jaw? And then asking for these different positions. Can we get there? Can we get these changes to happen with a release of the jaw? You'll notice that when the jaw is released, the top line expresses a little more. You start to stretch a little bit better. Through the back, through the neck.
It's a little crappy. Because from World War II.
You can kind of flow around your shoulder in, count your shoulder in.
So you're not on the outside ring at all.
Not yet. No. I could be. There's a good stretch over there.
I was like, what is going on?
Yeah. Yes, we got yoga class going on in here. It's good. We need to start playing some soft music.
We do that. I have it. We do that.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah,
Some soft music, get some scented candles.
yeah. What are we doing?